Hi, I'm Jack B. Calhoun, and this is Chapter 2 of It's a Lonely Planet Out There. I don't remember too well, but I suppose the rock hit me square in the face. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in reception with a bloody nose and a bunch of concerned-looking hostel guests staring down at me. Tommy and Anna were nowhere to be seen. Linny was holding an ice pack to my face. She was patient and caring, but being tended to like a child left me feeling like an idiot. The bleeding stopped after a few minutes, but it all hurt like hell anyway. Rather than sit around the hostel, I made an excuse about wanting some fresh air and left. A couple of grizzled-looking 50-somethings from the deep south, Tennessee Jim and Texas Rose, they introduced themselves as, handed me a few unlabeled pills, telling me they'd take the edge off the pain. I gulped 2 of them down and headed out. Dazed and confused, I wandered away from Waikiki and off into the interior of Oahu. When I finally checked the time on my phone, it was approaching 5 in the afternoon. I found myself at an overpass next to a highway. Cars, taxis, and minivans sped past, ferrying tourists to and from Waikiki. Many of them, I figured, would never leave that little corner of Oahu until it came time to head back to the airport. The thought depressed me. If they did, it would be an on-air, conditioned highlights tour. They were being processed like cattle and paying for the privilege. I wondered how similar I was to them, despite my desire for the real, the authentic. Jim and Rosie's pills had done their job on the pain all right, but I had no idea where I was now. On the other side of the overpass was a small commercial lot. The choice was between a franchise coffee shop and a smoothie place. I opted for the fruit, my fuzzy mind grasping at the idea of vitamin C as some kind of cure for feeling like I was. The blast of aircon as I stepped through the door made the sweat on my back freeze. I wasn't ready to be inside. It was too bright, too shiny. After 3 attempts, I finally got my order in. I was slurring my own words, and there were too many options. Eventually, drink in hand, I dropped into an uncomfortable plastic booth in the far corner of the place, as far away from everyone as I could get. I drained half of the enormous cup in one go. It gave me a brain freeze. After vigorously rubbing my temples, I finally felt alive again. The chilled air, the intense lighting, and the faux tropical music all seemed to click into place, and everything felt very real once more. My nose began to throb again, indicating the pills were probably wearing off. I gulped the second half of the smoothie and another couple of the pills. Being inside also meant not sweating, so I decided to stay a while longer. My vision was less blurry than before, which meant I could focus on my phone. After checking the football gossip from back home, I realised I hadn't been in touch with family or friends for the best part of a week now. Dad wasn't much of a texter anyway, but I was fairly regular in keeping him and Mum up to date with where I was. She'd usually reply instantly, but he'd take a few hours, or more often than not a day, and sometimes not at all. On the group chats with my mates, the novelty factor of me backpacking across the States had quickly worn off. Given that they were working their lives away under leaden Scottish skies, this didn't come as a surprise. The talk was of women troubles and football transfers and crude jokes. Nothing had changed except I was in Hawaii. First up, I needed to tell Dad where I was. I started tapping out the message, but either because of or despite the pills, found it difficult to focus. My eyes drifted over the edge of the screen and out the windows. Customers came and went. Cars headed for the drive-thru, and the motorway traffic continued relentlessly. Everywhere I saw families, couples, groups of friends. I'd left my own family back in Edinburgh because I thought I couldn't handle being around them. Now, here on Oahu, I missed them more than anything else. I dumped my girlfriend of 2 years a few months back, just after Christmas, so I wouldn't feel guilty jumping in and out of foreign girls' beds on my trip. So far, I'd got as far as a flirty conversation with a Colombian lass back in Los Angeles before I'd flown out to Oahu. My mates didn't understand my wanderlust, my need to have a lonely planet and blank blog template to describe my adventures on. I'd freaked them out when I said I couldn't face the weeks at work and weekends dreaming of watching our football team scrap its way to mid-table obscurity at best. That's all they had. That was all I'd had too. The world had beckoned and I'd scurried hurriedly towards it. But then, sitting with that second ice-cold berry blast in front of me that sad afternoon, I realised I was homesick and ready to throw in the towel. My dad had been right all along. The problem was me. It wasn't my job. It wasn't Lisa, my kind, beautiful ex, who had coldly dumped on nothing more than a whim. And this whim had taken me to the Pacific Ocean so that I could be sitting in a chain smoothie shack, with staff watching me through concerned eyes and aircon so frosty that I was starting to shiver. I started typing the message. Hi Dad, thought you'd appreciate an update. Hawaii now, Oahu Island. It's like paradise right enough, just like the postcards. Look, I think you were right all along. This trip was a mistake. I'm going to look into changing my flights and come back early, save what I can of the money and see if I can get my old job back in the office. I went to hit the send icon when the screen froze for a few seconds. Then the phone manufacturer logo popped up. The bloody phone had started closing down. I'd forgotten to charge it after taking a load of pictures out at Pearl Harbor that morning. I didn't have my power bank with me. I closed my eyes in frustration and felt a tear sting in each eye. I was an idiot. I grabbed a third smoothie from the counter. This one was to keep me company as I wandered back to the citrus squeeze. Heading back out and across the overpass again, I knew I was lost without my Maps app. I had no real idea where I was going and started a haphazard journey in a vague beachward direction. It took well over an hour to get back to the hostel. The light blue sky turned dark. It was a relief when I began to recognize the bright neon lights and offensively inauthentic bars of Waikiki. It was even more of a relief to realize that I was on the road leading to the hostel. But it was a real surprise when I discovered the pumping music and loud chatter I could hear almost a block away were coming from the same place. I pushed open the green door. The music was loud enough to drown out the creek.